Hello everyone! Today I have something epic for you. As you know, the 15th episode of Skibidi Toilet Zombie Universe was released yesterday. And it totally deserved its second rank on the list of the longest episodes, as it is almost 2.5 minutes long. There was so much craziness and sadness in it that I literally watched the whole thing with my mouth open. Well, if you're really ready to learn the secret of who really created the protective barrier and see how the zombie speakerman started eating his army and turning into a giant, then put all your business aside for the next 10 minutes and trust me, today I will analyze the 15th episode of Skibidi Zombie Universe for you, and then I will show you all the secrets and Easter eggs you definitely didn't notice. Why the X-18 played a cruel trick on its owner and destroyed him forever. What new zombie has entered the battle, and where have we seen it before? Is episode 15 really so creepy that even the POV himself couldn't contain his emotions and almost threw up? Get your tea and snacks ready, and prepare to watch this video to the end for the best 10 minutes of your life. Let's go! Well, continuing our favorite tradition, I will refresh your memory and tell you how we came face to face with the zombie speakerman. In the last episode, the POV decided not to stay in the vile stomach of a zombie for a long time, so the genius got out of a smelly hotel room with the help of Jetpack and X-18, and after that forever destroyed the monster who decided that the POV could become an easy snack for him. As it turned out, while we were in a bad-smelling stomach, the zombies had already managed to teleport to one of their headquarters where the zombie speakerman was running everything. Instead of saving your butt and getting out of this place, you decided to spy on this freak. And in the process of surveillance, the POV stumbled upon these poor devils. So we turned out to have a kind heart and decided to release these prisoners. But for good deeds, there always comes a reckoning, and several mutants arrived at the loud sounds of liberation. Fortunately for the POV and his company, this did not become a problem, and we, in the style of a professional shooter, began to destroy one zombie after another like little toys. And after that, the toilet took the X-18 weapon from you, and it looks like he did not want to pay a fine for driving this zombie policeman. So the blood set his brain straight several times in a row and destroyed him forever. The godlike toilet got tired of being here and made a hole in the wall, and it seemed that the horror was over and the guys could go home. But suddenly the zombie speakerman came to the party. Now you're all set and ready, and I'm happy to take you to the 15th episode, which is already on your screens. In the first seconds, you see how the freak broke the neck of our new friend and threw his body next to us. I know that we didn't know each other for long, but still, you were a good soldier, buddy. Press F. A godlike dude wants to avenge his little brother, and with one precise shot, he deprives the zombie speakerman of his arm. The little girl starts screaming at the top of her voice, and a lot of infected cameramen have come running to her crying. And it was at this moment when the zombie speakerman showed you one of his new abilities. Monster Up told me that only a speakerman can summon an army of zombies with a scream, and that only generals have this ability. But if we go back to episode 6, then you'll remember how there was another screaming girl who called the zombie scientist. But as it turned out, it was the Astro Toilet that time who was screaming for help. And in episode 15, it was a strict order that all mutants obey without exception. Okay, after that, one of the zombies fancied himself a daredevil, and for this, his body was cut off into 2 parts. As it turned out, this was done by a protective barrier that appeared at the moment when this grasshopper decided to jump, and it is not entirely clear who exactly activated the shield. But I have an amazing theory that reveals the truth, and I will tell you about it a little later. So watch the video to the end, so you will not miss anything. Surprisingly, the second part of the zombie continues to pull his vile hands towards you, and even the powerful barrier failed to destroy him. But fortunately, the brother does all the work for him, leaving only one hand from the monster. Finally! I hope you're done now, huh? After that, the furious mommy starts throwing her subordinates like little toys and makes a pathetic attempt to destroy the barrier with the help of this poor guy. By the way, I hope you haven't forgotten that this is the exact scene I showed you in the last leak video, and the scene where this dude was throwing away those zombies was copied from an excerpt of the film called I Am Legend, where the main zombie did the same thing. Well, if you're eating right now, then I highly recommend you to put all the food away, my friends. The zombie speakerman decides to taste this poor guy, and thanks to this lunch, his lost arm grows back. How creepy it looks after all. The freak continues to do his nasty things, from which the POV himself puts his hand on his mouth, And this gesture most likely means that the POV starts feeling sick to his stomach from this. Honestly, if I were him, I would do the same thing, and I don't understand why the whole army of cameramen zombies doesn't run away at the sight of this horror, because their boss might want to have a snack with someone else. Don't you think so? The zombie speaker man has eaten well, and his whole body begins to shake and increase in size. And after that, he tries to break the barrier. The situation has become seriously complicated, and the POV pulls out his school backpack from which two plungers are getting pulled out, and it looks very cool, and most likely our jetpack is able to generate an infinite number of weapons. Unfortunately, on the second attempt, the zombie speakerman actually manages to destroy the shield, and the first one to get hit on the head is this godlike toilet. Also at this moment, you couldn't help but notice these things around the brother. I think MonsterUp chose the wrong smoke textures, and this caused a render error or something like that. The blood turns out to be not so simple and shows us something epic. He lifts the zombie's body into the air and hits it with great force, and then throws it down and treats it with a portion of lead as a gift. As it turned out, all this time there was this device on the chest of the toilet in which several missiles were stored. Okay, after that comes the real madness. AKA the anime style, the brother attacks this zombie speakerman once again, and it seems that the battle is definitely over. But something goes wrong and the blood starts coughing, and in addition to this, the crying girl starts screaming again and calls for a new zombie to arrive. But before we get to the most interesting part, I would like to show you this scene again, and it is a reference to the animation from the game called League of Legends, which MonsterUp was inspired by while creating the battle between the advanced toilet and the zombie speakerman. I would also like to tell you more about why the blood started coughing and feeling sick. Didn't it seem strange to you that the zombie speakerman still managed to destroy the protective barrier? After all, before that he also tried to do it, but he didn't succeed. So what went wrong? If you watch in slow motion the moment when the POV took out the jetpack, then you will notice this green goo, which belongs to this very zombie who became lunch for the boss, so it successfully got through the barrier. And it happened because the X-18 force inside of the toilet body began to weaken, and at the same time the barrier began to weaken and the green goo managed to get through it. And so the blood began to cough as X-18 takes away his strength, and very soon the toilet will finally come to an end. Well, but all the sad news does not end just there, and a new zombie comes to the order of the Screaming Girl. In order to move himself from one place to another, he uses these tentacles, which are an obvious reference to the Skibidi toilet from the 44th episode of the original series created by Boom, which used pretty much the same thing. Also, a TV is attached to the center of this zombie's body, and the company that created it is also called Skibidi. There is something like a stroller on the bottom of the mutant, and his entire toilet tank is covered with rust. Most likely we saw this guy earlier, and just before the infection, he was the same Skibidi toilet that stole a lens from the POV in the 42nd episode of the original series. It seems that after the zombie apocalypse, this poor guy also became a zombie, but his tentacles were improved, and now he moves with their help. Okay, the newcomer turns on his TV, and with the help of the red glow, he tries to force our blood to destroy himself with his guns. And it's high time for the POV to show what he is really capable of and go on stage. So we throw one explosive plunger at the scoundrel, which detonates successfully and saves his brother's life. It's time to fly as far away as possible now, and two guys use their jetpacks, but something prevents us from getting home again, and the toilet turbines start to fail. And halfway to salvation, our blood falls exhausted to the ground, and one of the saddest scenes in the history of the series occurs before our eyes. At the accompaniment of some pretty mournful music, the toilet starts coughing, and after that one of his hands disappears, followed by the second one. Then our brother looks at us, and he seems to understand that this is the end for him now. Then his whole body gets absorbed by the X-18 cannon, and only this thing remains lying on the ground. The screams of the zombie speakerman can be heard in the distance, and at the end of the episode you see this image. This is the From leak that I told you about in my last video. And if you don't understand what it means and why Hephaestus first took all the powers of the toilet and then destroyed it, then I highly recommend you to watch my analysis of this leak, where I told you everything about this image in detail and how this weapon works. I told you that the toilet that took the gun from the POV is in terrible danger right now, because in order to use the X-18 and be safe, you need to have an additional power source, which for example can be the core. And it was exactly this thing that allowed G-Man to use the X-18 cannon for so long, and only after 3 episodes the weapon finally weakened Jimmy. And as we know, without additional energy, the X-18 begins to take the life of its owner, and in the end it can completely destroy him, which happened to this poor guy. To be honest, I felt very sorry for him at that moment, and I am very grateful to him for saving our life after all. And that was all for today. Write your own theories about what awaits us in the 16th episode in the comments below, and I will pin the most interesting one under this video. And that was me, Isotoilet. See ya!